Hey, thanks so much for having me. So yeah, I'm Luke. I'm the founder of Pixels, and we're essentially building Web3 Zynga. So this team has been building a game for the last 8 months, and essentially the game that we built is kind of like on-chain Farmville. We have a pre-alpha that's live right now, and in the last month, we've actually released a lot of new updates that kind of have polished the game and made the game experience better. And we've seen some really awesome growth from that. We've gone from 2,000 daily active users to over 18,000 daily active users. We have a Discord community of over 50,000 people now. And what we're seeing in the space is this pent up demand for blockchain gaming. Early entrants proved how big this market was, but the current games in the space have been very slow to adapt, and we actually haven't seen many new entrants in the space in the last year. And we think this is because games in general, they're extremely hard to build. 50% of Web2 games, they never even launch, no matter how well funded they are. And then Web3 adds complexities that are unspoken. They're Web3 gaming is still very much deep tech, and the design challenges are also extremely difficult. You have to think about game economy and token structure and all that. Essentially, you need a really experienced and technical team to succeed in the space. And luckily, we have that. We have a core team of 11 people, but interestingly enough, we also have 3 of the founding members of a game studio called Gamehouse. This team exited back in 2008, but they made hundreds of games played by tens of millions of people. And what's really nice is that we essentially get to bring their playbook into Web3. So Gamehouse had the strategy of building one engine that was used across all of the games that we built. And we're kind of taking the same approach. We've been taking a tooling first approach to building, and we built an entire suite of tools that allow our designers to build blockchain-backed game mechanics without any code involved. This tooling has allowed us to build our first game really quickly. We launched our NFT back in January. We have a blockchain-backed beta shipping in November. And it allows us to build other games really rapidly as well, too. The interesting thing that we can do with this is we can also link all these games together with one utility token and essentially build a network effect with this token. And this essentially allows us to build a 2D metaverse. To us, the metaverse is an interconnected experience of multiple games. And with this multiple game approach, we can actually build games that target multiple audiences, and we can link them all together in this shared universe with one token. The opportunity in this space is really big, and it's really exciting to us. The team is uniquely positioned to be building this space. And what we're really after here is building out the next generation of Web3 gaming. So we have a live game right now, or we have a game that's live out right now. I would really encourage you to check it out and play it. And that's just a tiny peek of what we're building, but there's a lot up at Pixels right now.
All right, Luke. Thanks for the presentation. First off, your traction looks great, and it's awesome you've gotten so much validation from the community so far. So you kind of touched on this in the presentation about having kind of this underlying token that powers like a network of games, this 2D metaverse that you alluded to. Can you tell us a little bit more about the advantages of building this ecosystem or this game in particular in Web3?
Yeah, so we're taking a lot of inspiration from how games monetize in Web 2. I love the idea of a soft currency and a hard currency. So Clash of Clans is a really good example of a Web 2 game that monetizes like this. They have one currency in their game called coins. Players can progress the entire game without buying any of this hard currency, but they have a premium currency too that makes the experience a bit better. How we look at our games and this network of games is monetizing off a hard currency across this entire ecosystem. And then essentially what we can do with that too is build a network effect out of this token. One issue with Web3 games and games in general is they have very limited lifespans. A typical Web2 game that's considered a huge success, they boom for 2 months, they like falter, and they lose their users after like 2 to 3 months. Those games make a ton of money. They're considered a big success. And like in Web3, the games aren't really getting set up for that way. With this, we don't have to rely on the success of one game. We can build out a network effect and kind of, de-risk the reliance on the hit of one game with using a shared token between all of these games.
So it sounds like a core part of your strategy, if you were to make the comparison to Zynga, is that you understand that certain games can be one-hit wonders and drive like a large percentage of revenue, and you need to launch a lot of these things in order to get the ones that hit. And the other part of your strategy is being able to iterate very quickly on this, and that not taking a team of dozens of developers and many years to launch a single game, but doing it in a matter of months, which is like insane for anyone in the gaming world who has worked in like publishing or whether it's like building games is a pretty hard and long process. So tell us a little bit more about the mechanics of that lets you do this. You talked a little bit about the team of Gamehouse developers, of building this underlying engine, but can you go into a little more detail there of like what actually enables you to launch so quickly?
Yeah, so our team is extremely technical. We have 4 engineers on the team with CTO experience at VC-backed companies. And this team is really good at building DevOps and also the deep tech challenges as well. We're taking a tooling first approach to building these games, which essentially allows us to create different iterations of these games really quickly. And the whole idea is whenever a developer is building a feature, they don't actually directly build that feature. They build a tool for a designer so that this designer can build the feature. So essentially what we're doing is one, experimenting with letting other people use our tools, and then iterating off of these tools as well too. Reskinning, targeting different audiences, targeting different markets, all with the same engine.
Got it. I see. So tell us a little bit more about the marketing towards the Web3 gamers versus Web2. I know you touched on this earlier, but are there kind of a different set of needs or desires from, because it sounds to me like when I see the success of Axie Infinity or some of the other games that are out there, there seems to be a lot of demand for it. But what are the kind of different things that this community cares about?
Yeah, so we've grown to 18,000 DAU on maybe $3,000 of customer acquisition spend. And that's one of the really unique things about Web3. The user acquisition is very different. Then also the community building Web3 is very different too. In Web3, there's a ton of communities out there that have very strong ties, but actually nothing to do inside of their communities. We get to provide these communities a place to gather, to hang out, to actually give utility to their communities. So part of the strategy is we're working with Web3 communities that are existing already, and we get to onboard and give them utility. And the other part too is the other interesting user acquisition stuff that we're up to. We're doing some really unique stuff in this space in terms of reading on-chain data, targeting direct competitors via on-chain data. It's so cool. I'm really into the
tell me a little bit more about that. Like, what are you doing there?
Yeah, one of the awesome things about blockchain and blockchain marketing is you get a direct view of all the people who are very likely to use their your products. So we get to scrape things like the users of Axie Infinity, users of other play to earn games, and we get to directly target these wallets or directly target users who are likely to use our game. All the data's there and like free for us to take. I don't see many people taking advantage of this kind of stuff, but it's been a really awesome user acquisition strategy for us early on.
Interesting. It kind of reminds me of the open source playbook of like, if you're an open source company, you kind of already know who your potential customers are. They're all out there, maybe starting a repo or similar repos, and it's just a matter of getting in front of them and bringing them to the fold. So it's really interesting that you're using that playbook. Cool. So I guess 5 years from now, like what does Pixels look like, as if you're going to make the Zynga comparison? I guess I can imagine, but what do you think?
Yeah, so the initial go-to-market is Web3 gamers. We can onboard communities that are already existing. We can onboard people who are already familiar with this space. There's a lot of barriers to entry in the Web3 gaming space right now. Like even setting up a MetaMask is pretty difficult and a huge barrier compared to Web2 games where they hyper optimize every single part of the pipeline of a game. But here, we still really believe that most people will be onboarded into Web3 through gaming. So we want to make games that people who know nothing about Web3 still want to play. We want to make games that are up to par in quality. We want to make the UX and the onboarding experience really good too. And then also it's the type of game that we're building as well. Crypto can generally be very off-putting to a lot of people. We're making games who target a different type of audience than the typical crypto audience. Like for example, Farmville and like Stardew Valley, two of the games we're taking a huge amount of inspiration from. Their demographics are typically split like 50-50, male, female, all of that too. So the type of games that we're making are really important to that as well.
All right. Thanks so much, Luke, for that. Great presentation, awesome traction. Excited to see what kind of games you're going to be building.
Sweet. Appreciate it.